Okay, welcome into restorative. So we're going to start sitting on a bolster, flat standard bolster, no round one, and have your blocks tucked under the legs. Now, you don't have to have your legs, soles of the feet together, knees out. I would say find a crossing that makes it comfortable so you're not pushing the knees in an angle that's kind of a harsh pull. I want you just to feel like you can sit well into your bones, your sitting bones, but also sit a little forward on them, right? You don't want to be lowering down and rounding. You're moving your ribs forward. And we're going to start with some tapping, okay? So I want you to start with tapping at the upper chest area. So well above the collarbones, okay? And then a little bit below the collarbones just to stimulate the lymphatic system here, a little bit of tapping. And then when you move into that pressure, see if you can let the pressure be, it's pretty fast, right? It's not the deepest touch, it's tapping. And then you're going to stretch an arm up and go tap towards that armpit and down the side. We're just kind of waking ourselves up for the practice, getting some stimulation. And then I want you just to go to the other side. Keep it simple, okay? You can start at the ribs. You can start a little bit higher towards the armpit. I do want you to include a little more rib tapping than we might normally do in lymphatic work. So when I work on the rib space, it's because we're doing restorative and respiratory work. So I do want you to feel like you can tap to the ribs. If this is too much on your shoulder, if you have an angry shoulder, you can lower it down. And then come back to tapping at the chest and then down to the belly. Getting into these zones in the belly zone, right between the lumbar lymph nodes, right between the diaphragm and the pelvis. So that's pretty low in the belly. The challenge for me is to not round the back. So I've got to kind of move my ribs a little forward. All right, and then tap onto the thighs, the upper inner leg, just tapping. And then I want you just to let the tapping slow down to rest your shoulders and let your head tip to one side, tipping the ear towards the shoulder, and just feel that movement, that glide on the neck, right? No rounding or circling of the neck muscles, just letting it tip. Okay, and then just let your head tip slow to the other side. No stop in between, just tilting. And starting to feel the rhythm of your breath, the rhythm of the heart. Maybe closing your eyes, coming back center, and just rolling your shoulders. So shrugging the shoulders to the ears and back and down. And feel this motion about 10 times, right? So feeling that when you get to that final few, you might start to feel a little tired. So we want to get these areas warmed up, heated, kind of prep them for the postures. So as we feel that roll and that situation of circling, because this joint can go that way, not the neck, but the shoulders. And then one more time, you're going to lean over this time to your right, placing that right hand down, stretch the left arm over. Okay, and feel how you change the weight on your sitting bones. It's tilting. And then go right over to the other side, not spending a lot of time with what's right in the middle, feeling the leaning and the shaping of sensation. You could turn your head down towards your left hand. You can certainly turn your head up, shifting. And then let's start to make our way back. So we're going to go ahead and place our block right in front of the bolster. So if you're sitting cross-legged, you're going to be placing a block right next to the bolster at the lowest setting, right? And it's stuck to it. Okay, place it so it's as close as it could be, right? You don't want it on top of the bolster. I haven't tried that. And then you're going to sit on the block and have some space below. If you're near a wall, have your belt buckled up. It's in a loop. And then as you guide your back to the bolster, kind of feel what parts of your back touch down. I'm going to move myself a little bit away from the wall so I can actually touch it. I like to stretch my legs down And once I'm on my back, I'm going to place the sandbag across the tops of my thighs, or you could have it in this little curve between the lower ribs and the navel area. Okay, you get to be the decider. Where on that front space do you want a little bit of extra circulation and elongation? And then the arms open. And this is too many blankets for me, I can tell. So I'm pretty warmed up coming into this today. So you might find if you're feeling a little stiff in the neck, you haven't done a lot of movement, you probably will need some extra height, just maybe 2 blankets, nothing to round the neck excessively at all. But if you can elongate at the neck with 1 folded blanket, again, there's no competition. Okay, it's got to feel like you're lining up the circuitry and really feeling where this kind of rib barrel is motioning around. Kind of feel the round of the ribs. The sand, I think, is a bonus, but if the leg stretching down doesn't feel good on your back or your knee, you just bend your knees and put the soles of the feet down and the knees may be together. Okay, it needs to feel like you can breathe and open your arms and relax into your body. Right, how about that? How can you relax into the sensations? Kind of feel kind of the physical, I'm thinking the word made up, physication. Okay, so kind of feeling the physical of breathing and using your props to support this change in circulation, moving into this inversion. It's a little bit of an inversion with your hips up and the ribs opening. It's a back bending pose, it's a chest opener. And you might decide if you have 2 blankets, like I mentioned, you might go down to 1. And then feeling that elongation at the length of the neck and the stretching open of the chest. Swallowing to clear the throat. And then feeling that full movement of the abdominals with your breath. Just take a few more solid breaths. Feeling that your breath can also feel like affirmative, right, of movement in the core. And then as you exhale, you're elongating, right, that movement of the diaphragm back to the heart. Let's take a few moments. The arms can spread. Really, you can kind of play with this. You can lift them off the floor and see if you can reach one side of the back or the shoulder a little bit out. The bolster is probably going to support that a little bit. Some of us everyone that's taller than me, the bolster might not support that as much. So there is a benefit to being short sometimes. But if you do find you want more of the bolster to support that circulation in the shoulders, you could carefully scoot a little bit down on the block. So you'd be right at the edge of that block. So there is some bolster supporting just right at the ridge, maybe not right in the armpits, but you want to use the bolster to help bolster you. Okay, it's pretty simple. Okay, now with that open quality in the chest, let's start to bring the feet back in if your legs were straight, which is actually kind of delightful for the hip flexors. If any of these things really speak to you that you want to stay in longer, you always can. If you want to stay in supported, elongated bridge, like with the legs straight, you can stay as long as you need to really reinforce that psoas stretch, right? Now, when you come back, if you do, we're going to slide a little bit back. So now, if I've got 2 blankets, I go down to 1. And I'm going to move the blanket that's under my head a little bit back so it's at the center of the back of my skull, not at the neck. Okay? I'm going to move my sand aside. And I'm going to take the bolster handles with my thumbs to push them down. Now, if that doesn't feel good in your hands, what I'm going to recommend is to walk back onto the feet, and then you're going to slide back a little bit and move your bolster down so it replaces the block. And then once the tailbone presses down there, you might have to reset things. So you're kind of feeling more, the clothing is organized to your support. And then take the belt first, okay? Okay, now I want you to buckle up so you got this in a big loop. Okay, now I want to work on kind of the channels of energy on the adductors first here. So with adductor energy, okay, we're going to add a ball. We're going to use the belt in a moment, but I want you just to kind of prep that. So if you're trying to get your belt connected, you can do that while you have the ball center of the knees. And you're going to squeeze the ball a little bit. So kind of feel all these energies of the leg pits, the groins, and just squeeze. The feet can drop down, but not touching the floor. So the hinge of the hips is real. And then let the knees go side to side. So feeling that motion, starting to loosen up the threads from your tailbone, your sacrum, that whole area to the SI joint and across is just slowly warming up, okay? And be sure that the bolster supports you, right? You definitely want to have support at the tailbone so your tail is not on the edge of the bolster or on the, falling off the edge. I like to have it kind of right at the edge, but not to feel too much arch in my back, okay? But I found doing this kind of formula work has been helpful with posture, with spine, with the carriage in my body as I elevate into my back line. And the things I can work on is neck, right? How does my neck position? How can I elongate and extend my neck? So as the knees go side to side, just even though you might not feel like this is an inner thigh exercise, I want us to kind of start to get ready to bring it all together with the thigh muscles. So next time you come back in center, let the legs stretch straight up, straight-ish. They don't have to be perfectly straight with the knees. There's going to be a little micro bend here. And then flex the feet. You can't probably see mine, but flex them. And as you're extending out of the hip flexors and the feet flexing, right, you can feel the tailbone press down. Now I want you just to squeeze the ball, relax, try not to grip your jaw. Focus on this part, doing the work, right, doing the positioning, energy into the ball. Okay, this is about all I can do. You can't squeeze it anymore. So notice that. Just kind of fill it up so the circulation in the inner thigh is starting to get towards it's right up to the brim. Right? You're probably not able to do more squeezing. We're going to work on endurance on this for a few moments. And then relax the grip. Take the ball out and then take a belt loop. You got to be with a loop. This is probably a little too generous of a loop, so I'm going to make that loop big enough so that when I bend the knees and I catch my feet in the belt, I'm going to push my feet out wide, okay, in the belt. So my inner thighs went from pushing in now to motioning out. So the whole layer of the legs is starting to get this information, and they get stepped on a lot, at least the feet do, so the energy goes downwards. Gravity is your therapist. So see if we can use the practice to help with regenerating, okay? That's always my dream. Okay, so the legs are out. Okay, if it's shaky, it's too big. The loop is too big. Just be honest with yourself. If it's too much or you feel better holding the belt, you can have a really wide loop and hold it. Some people prefer this. They have the loop really big and they go really big and then they hold on to it. And so the belt's between the thumb and the index at the thenar space, and then stretch overhead. This is a good one too. Okay, I like to feel the leg energy all the way. So I prefer simply it's on my feet. I'm not holding it. That way I can feel the connections. Okay, and it takes a few moments, like I would say 2 minutes is what I'm trying to time us at with the leg width. And it's no competition how far to go out with the legs. It takes some time to let them drain. And sometimes you have to be patient in the poses for them to do their work to drain out. If your back is sensitive, bend the knees. If you're feeling a little bit of sacroiliac tension, then I would bend the knees a bit. Okay, now with the knees in that softness coming in, bending, we're going to reach up, bend the knees like into a wide squat, and we're going to pull and slide the feet together. And then we're going to lower the left leg down and take some time here before we sand it, just to feel, how far this right leg is going to reach. Is it going to go a little downwards? I don't recommend pushing it downwards because it can tighten up the right side of the back. So you either try to go vertical or you're going to eventually move it a little bit back. I try to stay with vertical. Okay? Because I want the side and the draining. I'm not focusing on the flexibility as much. So grab your sand and place it over on that left thigh, top of the thigh, and it might even feel like it's not the thigh you're on, it's kind of the hip bone. Since we're doing weight bearing, I would say it's okay to be on your hip bone. I don't want you to force the knee here, pushing it down. So if it's a knee pressure for you, see what it feels like to make sure the leg is straight down, it's not turned out. Okay, grab the belt, and with that loop as wide as you need. So if I have my leg straight up, I want to measure it so it could reach to the crown of my head. Then make it a little bit longer, a little wider. And then it's easy to place it to the back of my head. Now, don't put the buckle behind your head. Okay, but feeling where that belt supports the back of your skull, I think takes practice. There are days I don't get it right. I rush it. So feeling where you lean into the belt and also the areas where you could soften, such as the knee. It's okay to feel the hamstring. It's okay to feel the calf stretch, but let your arms open out. Relax your face. And simply feel the movements of the belly. So between where the diaphragm's flowing down, right? You can kind of feel where that movement occurs. From there to the pelvis, you want to create some kind of motion. And let the neck muscles lie back into the belt. So I don't have the belt around my neck, it's around my head. But my neck muscles are feeling some traction. So you can always bring your fingers to the sides of your neck and a slightly, just a little bit of firm pressure glide back. Right? You might not even feel spinally, you might feel the skin push back and actually kind of not motion around the spine. Just glide that. And as the arms are opening again, feel the awareness at the back of the right leg, leading. We're going to lead it into the hip in a few moments. So take some time. Okay, now as we switch sides, we're going to keep it very classic, one to the next. So Sam may be on the lower belly-ish. And then I I feel pretty trusting right now. I can swap the leg that's up, but you might need to put your hand at the belt and then you can lower the right leg down. Okay, so make sure the buckle doesn't slide around the back of your head. It may basically because it tends to unbuckle when you have too much pressure. Okay, and then the sand goes to the top of that right thigh. Okay, and as you're feeling, you might even have to hold your head in the initial stages and then let it trust that motion back. Yeah, so one side to the next could feel different in your range of motion. You might find that you need to loosen up the belt or tighten it up on side 2. Yeah, this is definitely sometimes a master class for yourself to figure out, oh, yeah, this side is, there's something not quite the same. What is it? So one side you might feel more calf stretch, one side more hamstring. So with the compilation of motions that we're exploring, right, today we're going to try to work our way towards getting some balance. I hope we do that most days, but it is always an exploration. So the right leg, the hip might flow open easier on side 2. It might be more guarded. So your consistent awareness of breathing is the only game in town anyway inside that you can rely on. So oxygenate. Remember, if you feel the left leg is hyperextending, it is, right? So it doesn't need to look a certain way. If it feels like it's jutting back and the back of the knee is feeling a little bit sensitive, then you do a little more of a micro bend. Okay, now scan the feel of awareness from the back of the thigh, wrapping around into the hip, the left leg. And then we're going to slide the sand off the right thigh. If you need to stay longer in it, you're always welcome to. But I want us to kind of keep on this track with the back of the leg. And then we're going to kind of wrap it in towards starting to move from basic leg parts into complicated hip parts. Okay. Hip parts, not hip hearts. So slide the right foot in. So the bottom of the foot is on the floor, the sole of the foot. And then take your belt. Okay, take it off the back of your head. Hold the belt with your right hand and cross the left leg over. Okay. Yeah, and maybe make it a little bit less pressure moving down or as far across as you can. Just feel the basic nature of moving the leg to the right. The basics only. Feel that pull. Using the strap, right? It really is quite the supporter right now. It's kind of interesting. Sometimes I'll think, okay, could I get this motion without the strap? I don't think I'd have the same feedback in my leg. So as you bend the left knee, okay, this time we're just going to bring the right knee to point up and hook that left foot to the right knee, right above the knee, not hit the patella, above the knee. And I want you to still hold on to the strap, which is on the foot. It's on the top of the foot, right? So try to keep that left knee pointed out. So it's a figure 4 pose. And the tailbone might feel like, oh, it's kind of parts of the back of the pelvis are moving open. And then the right side is trying to stay darn stable. And it's like, I got to hold this together for this left side to wander. So feel the right foot push down. Don't overly activate it. Just feel the sole of the foot on the floor. The left knee pointed out. Breathe. You might even put a hand on the navel center and keep firm pressure so when you're breathing, right, you have that consistent reminder, because if you have your hand pressing in, you'll likely breathe a little bit bigger, right? Like a sandbag, right? But it's a hand. not a handbag, just a hand. Okay, so I find this interesting in my ankle, so I have to keep my left foot flexed. I don't want an ankle that's getting pulled along here. And I feel a lot of connection all the way around to the back of that left hip. It's kind of good. Don't wag your tail. Don't push your right hip over. Try to keep stable in the tailbone, meaning don't roll under the hip to try to get more stretch. Just keep it simple. Easy does it. Okay, now the left knee is going to shift up, and I'm just going to take the belt off my left foot, and then slide it into my right foot. And my left knee is a little bendy. I'm going to cross the right leg over. Yeah. Less is more. I was lucky on side one because I had a wall, so I didn't really push much. I did touch the wall, but I'm trying to feel the curve, like the bones are bending. My right hip bone across to my right knee, bending, nothing's forcefully straight. A little bit of hinge at the knee down to the foot. You don't have to follow that. If you decide, you know what, I like to straighten my leg, that's up to you, it's your body. But you might feel, oh, this is an interesting exploration of my hip. Breathing, it only helps. Okay, now bring the right knee pointing in like above the navel. Slide the sole of the left foot on the floor. Place the right foot to that left knee. Flex it, that's key. And how, I imagine one side, your flexion is a little different, like it turns on the ankle. I mean, sometimes the more of an analyst you get, it's not always the most helpful, but analysis paralysis, right? But kind of feel all these little areas. We're going to flow quite a bit into moving upwards in the body, but I want you to kind of notice tailbone, left side, right side. Is it similar? I know you only have two sides, but you can quickly forget what side one felt like. So just follow the instruction if you can. Foot is flexing, belt is around the foot. You reinforce the strength in the ankle. The right knee points out. If anything hurts, you pass on it. You do a pose pass. You might feel like this is a lot on the knee to work this way, but we're targeting creating some flexion to protect the knee. And your right hip bone has some order of movement here. Inner thigh, and then around to the hip, which is where we're going to go right into. Okay. Now, hoping everybody has a block nearby. Does everybody have a block? And if your block is on the other side of the bolster, it might not be good, but we're going to need a block pretty soon. Okay. One block is enough. All right. So let's bring the knees back center. That means two. Everyone have two knees? One happy, one unhappy. Okay. Bring your feet up, hold on, have the feet together. So I got both feet in the belt together. They're not apart. And well, they are apart, but they're closer than they were before in the belt. And I want you to kind of pitch this one that you're letting your feet push into the belt. You're pulling. Okay. And activate through the hand work. The hand work is pulling. The biceps, the upper inner arm, is feeling a little contraction. Okay. All right. Now, as you bend into the knees, you're going to let the knees roll back a little bit, ribs towards the rib cage, take the belt off your feet, and then we're going to let the knees go side to side. And our hip lifts every time our knees go across. So, meaning if I go to the right, my left hip lifts. If I go to the left, my right hip lifts. So I'm not trying to get away with the tailbone pushed into the bolster at all. I'm just flowing across. And I know the bolster's not a ball, but it does give you some feedback into your skin, into the muscles. They're actually kind of helpful. Okay, now let the knees go. Since you can see easily when my knees go left in the block over here, I'm going to put the block on the left side, right besides my bolster, my short end of my bolster, right besides it. My block's at the second setting, okay? Actually, I'm not going to put it right next to it. I'm going to move it a little bit out so my legs can land. So I'm going to move my knees over to the left to touch down on my bumper, I call it, my bumper block. And I'm going to catch my legs with my left hand and just give it a little bit of a hold. Now, what happens if this is not feeling complete? You can add a sandbag that helps you feel completion, but I don't mean for this to be a long hold. So what I want you to bring some emphasis to is when your knees are to the left, your knees go left, your rib cage, I want you to try to keep that still open. So you're not trying to twist your ribs. Your knees go left and your ribs stay open, okay? I don't think the sand is the best move on this one. We've done it before, but I mean for how long we're in this one. Okay, so feel the right elbow bending so the ribs can flare open to the right a little bit. You can roll your head to the right and rest your head and your neck. Just take a few moments. Now come to the other side by going slow. How slow can you go? So as you're moving your knees to the right, right? I've got my legs basically together. And, you know, if you start to notice a lot of differences, see if you can just keep practicing. And everything we're doing is balanced on the prop. So the bolster is balanced. It just might take time for us to get there. So just one experience at a time here. So holding onto that side of the left thigh, close to the knee, and let the chest open. And it might feel easier on one side because you have different organs. I mean, you know, you don't have a liver on this side, so it's like, well, that other side felt a little fuller, or maybe it had more tension. I mean, there could be all more reasons than muscles and joints and other things that we have some imbalance with. So, you know, that's a nature of existence. And so as you're arriving on maybe the breath is balanced, you can roll your head to the left, you can keep it centered. And now as we've had this left side just lightly opening, we're gonna go into side sage with it, okay? So when we're upside down, we're basically inverting, we have the energetic, we're getting that lift and that flow gravitationally right for the ribs. I think of it kind of a zigzag right now in my ribs and then down to my hip, okay? So as you move your legs back towards center, I'd say just keep on rolling over to the left. It's nice to have the padding of the bolster. And then come on over, slide down, and then take your bolster. So it's going to be positioned. If you have a round bolster, you get that, okay? Because round bolsters are really nice for this. So I like to have 2 blankets folded. Now you don't have to fold them like this. Sometimes I leave it like this. On my blankets like that, so I can reach my arm overhead to the blanket. Otherwise, I need to add my block on the other side, so I'm still going to add a block, but I kind of like this. The only thing I don't like about it is when I have the blanket across, it's much easier for me. Maybe simply the other way is fine too, but I just fold my blanket up because I'm very cautious of my neck on this one. And I like to make sure this actually helps my neck. So I guess I'm changing my mind. I'm going back to this one. Okay, so take your sandbag and your ball. First things first, rib roll. So I got my sand Got my ball at my ribs. I'm going to lean into the side. Now, you were just on your back with your knees over. It was no different. You just look different now. It's all similar stuff. So lean into the ball, elbow on the floor, like drop it. And then you're going to open out through the ribs. And you can have your hand on your shoulder. This actually kind of feels nice. Or my hand is on my shoulder. Okay. Some don't even move their arm up. They have their hand on the bolster or their hip. Okay, so what the heck are you doing? You got your ball here and you're rolling. So if I'm up here and I'm moving, I'm not really pushing into it. So all I'm doing is getting some texturizing here in my ribs. It's just touch. Okay, now take the ball and your left thigh, this is important, your left thigh is close to the bolster, okay? Your ball is under the right knee. Highly recommend the ball. And then a sandbag is on that outer left hip. Weight bearing for my hip, okay? Right there it goes. Now, you could turn the sandbag lengthwise. You definitely might like that. Okay, so when I'm reaching overhead, might shift my sand if it will stay somewhere in the curve. But it's curve either way, right? It could be across, horizontal. There we go. Now I feel a little bit more kind of it kind of sinks up into my to my almost towards my side almost. Okay, and then touch down. If you need 2 blocks overhead, use 2. If you use a chair, I know some of you tell me that use a chair on this one. Okay, the chair is really nice because it's going to be less pressure on your shoulder. Okay, now the block, you could move it. You could decide I'm going to move it a little bit over so it's easier on my shoulder. Now let's not hurt our shoulders. So if this feels like, yeah, I'm not up for the arm movement, you can have it rest on your bolster. But certainly make sure that your neck is comfortable. Even if it's just minutes that we're in this. So let the neck relax. Place the right arm or move the arm or stretch it overhead. And as you get a feel of the side body touching the bolster, then you have to get a feeling of the neck relaxing. So just simply breathing and feeling that slow motion. Now let this motion into a twist. So you're going to slide the sand off. You're going to just let the body roll to the left. It's actually just rolling in towards the props, rolling down. And then as you come around to hand touch down, I recommend using a blanket on top of the bolster so you have support for your neck. So you can have one blanket at the base. Just turn your bolster up on top of the blanket. Push it next to your hip and then a blanket on top of that. And then as you lower down, your head turns to the right. Okay. And go slow, even though it seems, oh, this is easy. I just rest on my props. But there's things you can fine tune to help lead your way to a little more suppleness naturally just by letting gravity have you on this one. So you just let the props hold you and you want to sink into the props. And some of us might not like this neck position. So if you're like, this is just bugging my neck, you can take your blanket. I wouldn't fold it up too high because you don't want your neck going the other direction, right? You don't want it to tighten it. So you could put your forehead on the blanket and be here. Okay. What's interesting about that is how the jaw pushes. So I'm not such a big fan of how the teeth push up in the mouth this direction. So you might have to play with that. How are you tilting your face down? Right, so we don't create more tension because this is already tight enough for most of us. Okay, so take some time. This is a great one. If you have someone to put sand on your shoulder blades, it's even better. George has got a trained raider to come over and just land on the shoulder blades. I don't know if that would feel too good. So let the spine, yeah, become a little more supple. This is such a good one for our back. If this feels easy for you, do it again. Repeat this one during the week, right? Just get your bolster, make sure there's enough height under it, just enough to let your head rest into it. It's a great one for our back, for our chest. It's not a back rounding pose. You're lifting up and opening the chest. You can have your arms out. I right now feel like just bringing my hands into the sides of the bolster. And then taking some moments to feel the breath phase of the pose. But each pose has a breath phase. It's landing in the pose and then breathing, right? First, you got to get there. And then you breathe. And you experience the shape and the body. Okay, now feeling how the abdomen, right, the belly area has pressure and also has one part of it that can move with the breath. It's a nice way to massage into these tissues here. Okay, now as we slide the hands back, the hands under the shoulders, we come up. We're just going to turn all the way. So instead of half of the belly, right, open, we're going to have the whole belly on the bolster. So you take your time. If you're a little bit like knee averse, patella pressure averse, you have to be a little more careful how to get into this. Some of us, pressure on the knee isn't working. So I would say have a little blankie there. Okay, it doesn't hurt to add more support. And then I do like some wall under my feet, not like my feet up the wall, but a little bit of padding, bolster under, okay, and then make your way. So you're extending your torso down. Now, if you can spend a little bit of time here with your hands under your shoulders and making your motion be known into like a little bit of an up dog. Okay, this doesn't mean I'm pushing the wall. Yeah, I don't think that's the best for my back to push. But it is a way you get feedback in your body. You're gonna notice the circulation when you have the wall behind you, kind of moving into the body. So for this one, we're moving the front spine, okay, and the hip flexors. Now, when you lower down, okay, take some time here to just let your elbows move out wide. Use your blanket, right? The bolster is for me under my heart. And then when my forehead touches down, I relax my glutes, okay? So let your rear muscles relax. You've done quite a bit moving them around for a while, so let them take some moments where you're balancing out the weight on the front of the body and it's pushing in. So this is not insignificant as far as circulation. It's like, oh boy, I got pressure in here, but likely you can breathe a little bit easier on this one than you might do when you're on your back. Okay, it is pressure though. So when your forehead is down, breathe and feel where there's balance in the ribs when you're breathing. Okay, now as you lift your head up, bring your elbows on the floor in Sphinx pose. So my elbows are down, straight hands, straight from my elbow right to my hand, and I'm trying to keep, I would say, very cautious on the neck here. Just use the gesture of your arms pushing down to create the curve in the chest moving forward. Instead of like pushing my head up, I'm just gonna, this is it. I got my elbows down. I'm not forcing any more than this. My bolster's supporting my rib cage. I'm good, right? I don't need to put more force in the neck. Okay, so when we slide the hands back, we're gonna come on up to table, okay? And toes under, walk the hands back, slide them back, and lift the knees. And see if you can let the heels be up at the wall, or if you're in the middle of the room, they're just lifted so that your back can stretch all the way to your neck. Now, if you touch the bolster, that's okay. In restorative, we practice down dog with our head towards the bolster, but we might not be able to touch it. That's okay. As I mentioned, it's okay. But the focus is the heels are up so I can stretch open my back. If my heels are up, my sitting bones are lifting, then my lower back can stretch. Okay, now, as we walk the feet a little forward and we walk the hands on back, we're going to take what we call Uttanasana, or forward fold. Our head lowers down. We just travel through the neck into the brain stem, and we hold on to the elbows. Okay, so take some time to let the spine release. Let your weight of your head go. Just breathe. Now, feeling if you let your head nod side to side, and you just let it release down. It's pretty heavy, right? Just let the spine gently feel that assured stretch and sensation. And then as you lower your arms downwards, bend the knees, shift away from the wall, and start to walk your hands, crawl on forward. Feet move a little back. You got to find a nice way to work with those in tandem, don't you? Feet back, hands forward, knees down. And then we're going to turn our bolster. And we're going to come down and take a hip lean on the floor. If you need more padding under your hip, though, you can use another towel or blanket. If that happens, I would say use either double mat or just use another blanket. And it's important to do that instead of enduring the discomfort. It's definitely important that your hip is okay. So, and this is going to place some weight bearing into it. So you might need a little padding. Now I'm going to add my ball to my right rib cage, and I'm going to stack the thighs here. So my arm goes down between the bolster and the blankets, and I'm just going to turn. And just feel that circulation moving across the ribs. It's only one side, right? So you got a whole circulation in the rib barrel or the rib chamber. So just feel this one side, the pressure. You're trying to strengthen the breathing muscles in this class. Okay, now I come up, I take the ball and I place it under the left inner knee. I make sure that my bolster, whether it's round or flat, it's right next to my hip. And as I lean in, I try to get my back to push the bolster down. And then use your body weight, right? Add the sand. I think I like the sand on the side, lengthwise today. But it's definitely okay to go on the hip. Yeah. I mean, you've got to be the decider. And if you don't like the ball under your knee, you don't have to use it. But it is a nice kind of support and cushion. You know, some people, their alignment, it doesn't make a difference with the ball, but plenty of us it does. Okay, so stand up and then let the right arm be on the floor between the bolster and the blanket, and then your left arm overhead. Okay, remember you can move the block any direction, right? If it's, you know, a little bit intense in one little spot in the shoulder, like it feels different than the rest, okay, in the beginning, but if it starts to differentiate and you're like, yeah, this is starting to move into my complex, into my in the front, you know, if it starts to feed around and it gets a little tingly, not good. Okay, so if you start to feel just the difference of the parts tension wise, I'd say move the arm around. Remember, you can roll in the back of your head on this one too. If your neck is liking that better, it's probably a good thing, because most of us, we round it too much, and as we get older, it's just going to take over that roundness. So anytime I can do these things where I'm extending and I'm relaxing when I'm extending my neck, it's like, oh, so good, right, for my posture. My muscle memory might remember that when I'm doing something rounded. So feel the movement of the arm, feel the reach, or maybe your arm is resting on your side. So yeah, just take the time, feel the hips center down, and breathe. So as you're centering back into the breath phase, that's what's important here, the phase of the breath. Okay, again, if you're on the back of your head, you might try going to the side. You might take your blanket and bring it a little bit higher up. I think the blanket is really helpful on this one to make sure you have enough, not too little. And as I'm leaning in, and now I can kind of feel where the right hip bone is almost stretching. Okay, we're going to go right into that. We're going to just try to keep things, you know, very fluid as we go from one to the next. Everything has some continuous, this practice has some focus on that today. Okay, so for that continuity in the hip continuities, okay? All right, now take the sand off, turn. Careful, careful, no ball on this one. It would just push the knee up, and I just can't see any reason you want to pull your knee that direction. So we're going to turn, and we'll take our blanket. If you don't like to take the blanket off, some people do this with their two blankets, and turn, and then down they go, and they're happy. Okay. Some of us who have, you know, a little more needs in our neck, this is probably more important to have a blanket on top. Right, because from my collarbone right to my neck, right, I need a little bit of curve. Okay, so as I get close, my left leg, I can stack it on the right leg. I can have my left thigh touching my right foot, the sole of the foot, and as I lower down, I let my head turn to the left, and then relax the arms. Now again, you can hold, you can bring the elbows out wide, but let the weight of your head relax into the blanket. Open out through the back, breathe. It only helps. This one you can get into the breath phase quickly. So expand, feel the pressure into the bolster. Use the bolster to give you some circulation feedback, right? The deep pressure. And now hands slide back, come on up. Okay, and then taking the blanket off, I would take your bolster down to the base. Careful on the knees when you twist. So you're going to come on down and we're going to move, kind of have that focus back into the hips again. So bring your feet on top of the bolster. We want this to be kind of a cumulative effect, the sequence. So when I have my spine elongating, let's just push our feet onto the bolster. No ball between the knees right now. Just push into the feet, lift the hips up, like halfway that you go to bridge pose, just halfway. So you find some energy in the leg muscles, like power, okay, leg power. So with the hips lifting, bring your arms overhead maybe. Okay, this is an option, or elbows by the side, robot arms. Yeah, I have moments where I like the robot arms. Okay, now you're going to lift up a little higher. Okay, and you're going to find what is your reasonable range. Reason. Okay, really feel that power, pelvic power is what we're kind of working on, the pelvic power. So part of it is my legs. My pelvis owns my legs. I like to keep reminding myself, this owns my legs. So how I move this is going to own how these and all these parts, right? Hips, knees, ankles, right? And then as you lower down, that was a bit of time. Let the spine elongate. Okay, keep the knees pointing up. Okay, now take a ball, bring your knees to your chest, place the ball center of them, center of the knees. Okay, they're all different sizes. Some of us probably, I think most of us have something about this size. They're about 6-7 inches around. So when I'm pushing in, I want you to squeeze the ball as you lower down. Okay, touch down. Squeeze the ball, bring the knees back in towards your chest. Don't lose the ball. Okay, because once you bring it in, you lessen the pressure because naturally the back of the legs open up. So when you squeeze the ball and you lower back down, I don't know about you, but are the back of the legs still open? Bring them back in. Naturally, when I bring the knees in, the back of the leg, from my sitting bone up towards the back of the knee, gets a little stretch. Okay? So next time you come back down, you're going to push into your feet, and I'm on the bolster, and lift the hips. My feet are on the bolster, and let the hips go up. Okay? Now lower the spine down. Now you decide. I'm just going to let my arms stay by my sides right now, palms down, because I like to kind of work on the phase of the awareness in the spine. So when I lift my hips up, it's like there's this whole space between my pelvis going up. I lose the lumbar contact, right? It goes right into the rib contact when I lift my hips. Good. And then as your hips lift up, you got some solid strength there. And now those of us that like to move the arms, the next two, the final two, we're going to push into our feet, squeeze the ball, let the arms lift up and overhead. You can keep a blanket or not. It's really up to you. And then lower down the spine. Okay, now when you lower down, you can get all the spine. You can get the lumbar. When you come up, you're going to bypass the lumbar probably. So just notice that. Squeeze the ball, lift the hips up, right? Already have that lower arch. Good. And then let the hips go up. Stretch the arms overhead. Breathe. It only helps. Lower down. In the final spinal. Okay. Bring your knees to your chest. Take the ball out. All right. Now, as you lower down your feet, let's take the ball and roll it under. Hips go up to bridge for a moment. Roll it under to the back of the pelvis, about the sacrum. Okay. And then as the pelvis lands on that ball, mine's right around my tailbone. Okay. And then just let your hips go side to side. I would start small. Okay. You know, something I've been working with lately on this one is instead of having my feet on the floor or the bolster or anything, have them grounded. I've been slowly lifting my leg up, and I'm just trying to wag my tail on the ball so I have a little more deep touch into the sacrum area. and out to the SI joint. I kind of like that. Okay? Shouldn't hurt. If you've got a soft ball, if you've got a hard like tennis ball, no good. That's just too much. It shouldn't be on the sacrum. So soft ball works good, like a kid toy ball if you don't have one of these. So I'm moving my hips side to side. Now with my feet down, it is easier. Okay? But just noticing the total pressure into the skin, the volume of pressure. And the softer ball interacts with mobilizing fluids. It's a good channel of circulation for the lymph. It's also, and you want to use a softer ball for that. You don't want the hard one, okay? So when you move the ball to the right glute, you're going to move it over to the right rear, and then you're going to start moving your hips on over, rolling on the right glute, okay? So right rear, glute 1, we'll call it. Careful that the knees don't get too much pressure, so you might have to keep your feet closer together. They don't have to be right next to each other. But really, so how can you get those hips to move? If my feet are too far out, it might work better for some of us. If your feet are closer, it might work better. So just try it and just go with what feels better. Okay, they're both accurate. It's just, different for everybody, what feels better. So across the glute, press. Now when I lean in on my right glute and I let my knees tip a little over and I move my hips to the left, that's where I can feel the contact right to the glute medius. I feel that the ridge, I feel the nerve tissue. It's gliding out of it that I have to stay deep down on the ball. I don't want to just hover. I want to really keep pushing, okay? So I find just learning self-massage with that. Keep it both directions, really good contact with the ball, okay? Pressure and movement. And then we're going to go in the next few moments to side glute 2. So take your time to just kind of glide off that one glute. And then find another glute near you. Go to the left side. And as you push the ball in, you might push it in too far. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I thought I had it. But when I come up, the ball's too far in or it's too far down. So you do want to pin it on where it's very bony. Okay, it's like I can feel that direct contact, right? You might have to shift your clothes around. Sometimes things get caught. Okay, and the feet can be together. I'm really focusing on the touch therapy of this one. Not so much, any pose look. It's all about feeling to really mobilize into the skin and the surface muscle. Right, so that's the main deal with the softball. It's really getting that touch in to the skin, those top vessels, right into the surface of the muscle. It's good. Yeah, and you might barrel down a little bit more. Okay, and then take a few more glides across the musculature. Okay. Mature muscles. Okay, now as we roll across, if you need to go a little longer, you go. Keep going with it. And then you're going to come down to the right side of the tail. And then take your bolster very carefully with pushing it with your feet because you don't want to pull your knee in a bad direction. So I just kick the bolster to the right side of my mat. And I keep my right knee in a bend, right? I don't want to straighten out this right leg. Okay, I want to keep it a little bendy. And then my left leg swings over to the bolster. Now, if the bolster's too low, the bolster's only going to be the height it is, right? If you need a block under it, if you need this to go higher, just put a blanket on top or a block under it. Because, the round bolster might work really good on this one for some of us, because then you can feel that circulation through the inner thigh lift up across. It's kind of nice. Ball goes to the back of the pelvis. Sand goes to the left hip. And now that we can get to the side of the thigh, this is nice. I really like this. Just like when we did the brain float, we have the sand for some of us a little lower than the hip bone. Same with this one. You can be on the side of the hip bone, down the thigh, towards the knee. I feel good when it's close to my knee. Okay. Some of us are wary of that. So you be the decider. Make sure it makes contact and it's resting on the leg. It's not kind of falling off. The left arm is open. And the right hand can rest on the left side of the abdomen. Kind of feel in towards stomach, spleen area. Just resting your hand and breathing. Yeah, we're starting to motion into the final spinal when you want to make sure your environment is warm, for sure. You can always put a blanket over you. But feel the movement of the core with the breath. Now just kind of scan sensation. Sometimes I visualize, well, I go, okay, right hip is centered down, left hip is stretching. Okay, so I need the right hip to be centered on the side of the hip bone, so my right leg is bending. If my right leg was straight, it would really kind of torque the pelvis a little bit. So think about bending things, think of the curves. That's kind of helpful, right? To let the body feel those contours to help with flexibility whenever you can, whether you're kind of circling the hips or you're stretching out the chest, opening that, stretching the curve there. Okay, there are a lot of curves in the body that we kind of maybe don't consider to help us in these, and all these daily shapes that we're in, right? The rest of the day has its own practice, right, with posture. It never ends. Okay, now take the sand off that left hip and then start to make your way to side 2. I would go slow. There's no good in rushing it, unless you're rushing to get done. That's different, but not a really great idea for maturing joints here. So I go slow. I take my bolster. I'm going to move it over with my hands to the left side. And then when I take that right leg over, I like this idea of feet push and then hips move right, and then I just swing the leg over. Okay, so, feet about hips distance, push, and then move your hips to the right. Over the leg goes. Ball goes to the back of the pelvis. Sand goes across the thigh. And I mean, it's so nice that today we did a little bit of, we're just trying to sync it up. So we had the brain float, so the sand, if you used it, was front, now on the side. We're trying to get the weight on the leg, both front and side. Okay, when we're standing around, we got no problem with weight on the feet, right? No problem. We got that one down. So now we're just doing everything we can not to be on our feet. So the elbow is out. If you want to let your head roll to the right, I would do so. And find where you can relax your arm. And just feeling into that right hip. Breathe. It only helps. Okay, now move the sand off the hip. Going to trace that spatial outline with rotations. And then we're going to go into legs up. So roll to the side. Help yourself up. and make sure the space is warm. I'm only saying that because I need to turn some heat on. So put the bolster next to the wall, and I highly recommend that you use something to put your legs up on. So your legs could be, I mean, I guess your legs up the wall is not your legs on there against, but if you're doing bolster bench in the middle of the room, it's just, which is fine. You can definitely do this. Try maybe today to have your blocks higher, okay? Try to get them higher up so you get better flow back towards the collarbones because we started with that tapping, right? So we want to get back there. So if I'm at the wall, I'm not going to put the blocks under my bolster because I've never tried that because I've never seen it. So maybe I should still try it. You can add a blanket on your bolster to get higher. That might be a little awkward, but you can always try. I know we've done it in class before. So if you want to get higher up, you can put a blanket here as well. But I'm going to go the traditional. So sitting on the edge of the bolster, and then as I roll on the back of the pelvis and swing the legs up. Okay, so I've got to be right on the edge with my hip to come up. Now, I think some of us have different ways of getting into this. I'm assuming. Some of you kind of creep your way up to the legs up the wall this way, or on your back, and you slide up. So find the way so that when you're upside down, blanket or no blanket under your head is up to you. Okay? Some of us, maybe if we don't have an eye pillow, we might put the blanket and then our eyes. Okay? Some of us are going to have the blanket under. Okay? But be careful not to have the blanket too bulky under your neck. Okay? In fact, don't have it under your neck necessarily for all of us. So it could be under the occiput. So right at the above the brainstem and back. So that way you're not rounding your neck, right? You're promoting that curve, the opposite curve that we see when we're out and about, that lift, okay? Sandbag on the feet option, okay? Sometimes I like to do this one with sand on my, so it supports my breathing muscles here. Sometimes I like this, okay? Most of the time, I like this for my bones, right? So I like the weight on my feet, and that kind of speeds up, accelerates that circulation, that downward flow, directional flow towards the belly. And this is oftentimes called waterfall pose, okay, when the legs are up. And that first pull is going to be the belly, and the second pull is going to be the throat. Okay, so put some warmth on, right, if you need to. Warm up, and then let's take some time to go into that breath phase. That's what we're learning today. It's like you get in the shape and then you take some time in the breath phase. So as your arms are out, they could be still by your sides close. Okay, that could still be good for you. You could go goalpost, or you could be kind of preserving your energy. So finding that line of energy from the back of the legs into the pelvis, and then from the pelvis through the back, all the way to the shoulders, the neck, into the brain. Simply scanning the outlines in the body. And relax your breath. If you can feel the breath embodied versus in the face, right? I know we have sensory organs there in the face, lots of them. Okay, so when we're breathing through the nose, which is where we want to breathe, immediately you feel the body fill up. Okay, so feel that cycle of motion. And then just lean into letting go. Maybe let your head nod from side to side. The next time you come right back into center, rest the bottom teeth from the top teeth. So there might be a little parting at the lips, just a little bit. Just resting the facial bones. Now, if this feels good and you want to stay longer with the legs up, you can do so. Right? You can be in this one for, well, until the feet get tingly and before they go to sleep. You don't want to go past that. That's usually your sign. It's enough. The blood pressure is lowered. You've done your job. Some people that's 5 minutes. Some people it's 15. But this is plenty, right, that we've explored. So once we start to shift, kind of feel that you can keep all that circulation well inside, all the good work we've done. Really, it's kind of invest in that awareness in the body. And then as it's kind of poured in, reverse the flow, shift the feet away from the wall. And you might feel comfortable tossing your sand overhead. I like to have a little control of it because it would be too loud. And then as the knees draw back, you can feel the back muscles stretching. Really, a little bit of reach in the back muscles. And then just roll to the side. Roll to come on up. Then take a moment back to sitting. Legs in a simple crossing that's comfortable for you. So it might be high up on the bolster, and then just let your shoulders roll back. You might feel your body touch to the wall. I think that's always helpful. You let your head tilt to one side. Maybe even feeling, if you're at the wall, your head touch the wall. And then come back center, and then to the other side. Relax the jaw. Relax the tongue. And centering, bring your hands to join, palms to palms, and as we unite, slow breath. Inhale, belly soft. And with your exhalation, bowing into the peace within your heart. Namaste. Thank you. All right.